Good morning. What's going on? This is Matt with So Cincy. We're glad to have you. And as always, my glasses are dirty. It just be like that. I swear, it just be like that. Today we are going to be in Mark chapter 7. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. It's funny because I'm completely thrown. Christmas, New Year's, all that. I don't know my dates. I don't know my times. I don't know what day it is. And then on top of it, getting ready to get back into the rhythm of things. And then the kids are off for 2 more days because of the snow and the weather. And it's got me completely thrown. And it is what it is. It is what it is. If you are interested in following along with us, you can go to 5daybiblereading.com and you can download their schedule, and it's absolutely free, even though it says buy, that's other stuff, but it is free, so that's always good. And then somewhere in there, once you get there, right here, you can get a color version, you can get a black and white, you can get a large print. I don't know what the large print looks like, but this is what the regular print looks like. And it'll give you everything that they're going through. And so we are in week 2 down here. We're in Mark 7. And if you're reading more, Gen 19, 20, Psalm 1, and Mark 7. But that is where we are today. So we are going to jump right into it. Let's go. This is Mark chapter 7. One day, some Pharisees and teachers of religious law arrived from Jerusalem to see Jesus. They noticed that some of his disciples failed to follow the Jewish ritual of hand washing before eating. The Jews, especially the Pharisees, do not eat until they've poured water over their cupped hands, as required by their ancient traditions. Similarly, they don't eat anything from the market until they immerse their hands in water. This is but one of many traditions they have clung to, such as their ceremonial washing of cups, pitchers, and kettles. So the Pharisees and teachers of religious law asked him, "Why don't your disciples follow our age-old tradition? They eat without first performing the hand-washing ceremony." Jesus replied, "You hypocrites! Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you, for he wrote, 'These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship is a farce, for they teach man-made ideas as commands from God. For you ignore God's law and substitute your own tradition.' Then he said, 'You skillfully sidestep God's law in order to hold on to your own tradition. For instance, Moses gave you this law from God: honor your father and mother, and anyone who speaks disrespectfully of father and mother must be put to death. But you say it is all right for people to say to their parents, sorry, I can't help you, for I have vowed to give to God what I would have given you. In this way, you let them disregard their needy parents, and so you cancel the word of God in order to hand down your own tradition. And this is only one example among many others.' Then Jesus called to the crowd to come and hear. 'All of you listen,' he said, 'and try to understand. It's not what goes into your body that defiles you. You are defiled by what comes from your heart.' Then Jesus went into a house to get away from the crowd, and his disciples asked him what he meant by the parable he had just used. 'Don't you understand either?' he asked. 'Can't you see that the food you put into your body cannot defile you? Food doesn't go into your heart, but only passes through the stomach and then goes into the sewer.' By saying this, he declared that every kind of food is acceptable in God's eyes. Then he added, 'It is what comes from inside that defiles you. For from within, out of a person's heart, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, wickedness, deceit, lustful desires, envy, slander, pride, and foolishness. All these vile things come from within. They are what defile you. Then Jesus left Galilee and went north to the region of Tyre. He didn't want anyone to know which house he was staying in, but he couldn't keep it a secret. Right away, a woman who had heard about him came and fell at his feet. Her little girl was possessed by an evil spirit, and she begged him to cast out the demon from her daughter. Since she was a Gentile, born in Syria and Phoenicia, Jesus told her, "First I should feed the children, my own family, the Jews. It isn't right to take food from the children and throw it to the dogs." She replied, "That's true, Lord, but even the dogs under the table are allowed to eat the scraps from the children's plates." "Good answer," he said. "Now go home, for the demon has left your daughter." And when she arrived home, she found her little girl quietly lying in bed, and the demon was gone. Jesus left Tyre and went up to Sidon before going back to the Sea of Galilee and then to the region of the 10 towns. A deaf man with a speech impediment was brought to him, and the people begged Jesus to lay his hands on the man to heal him. Jesus led him away from the crowd so they could be alone. He put his fingers into the man's ear, then spitting on his own fingers, he touched the man's tongue. Looking up to heaven, he sighed and said, "Ephata," which means be open. Instantly, the man could hear perfectly, and his tongue was freed so he could speak plainly. Jesus told the crowd not to tell anyone, but the more he told them not to, the more they spread the news. They were completely amazed and said again and again, "Everything he does is wonderful. He even makes the deaf to hear and gives speech to those who cannot speak." That is Mark chapter 7. So, did I talk about this before? I don't know if I did or not. I was always curious. Why would he tell people not to tell people about him? Does that make sense? Like, why would Jesus tell the deaf man to not go and tell people about Jesus and what he does? Okay, I was always curious about that. And so I did a little research. Because that's what, verse 36. Yeah. The more he told them, the more they spread the news. And so in my research, which is really just simple, I mean, it makes sense. The answer is quite simple. Jesus told people not to go on around blabbing about him, because the more people would come, the less time and space he could do his work. So if you go back to the woman bleeding for 12 years, like there was a crowd that gathered around, and when she touched his robe, like the disciples were like, "How could we know? Like, look at the crowd. Like, there's tons of people." So it's really that simple. There's nothing. I mean, well, I don't know if there's anything special about it, but it's just as simple as just saying like, "Hey, like, people, don't tell people so that you can do specific things." I think that might be part of it too, is that Jesus specifically had to do things like parts of the Old Testament, the prophecies and things like that. Parts of that had to happen and come true, and so yeah, just leave it at that. There's no hypothetical. If he didn't, then he wouldn't have. No. It's just it is. You don't have to do hypothetical situations with Jesus. Like, what if Jesus did? Because he didn't, and so it's a mute conversation. But there was one other thing I did want to talk about real quick before we dip out of here. Did it have to do with the... Does that have to do with food? Oh, that's what I wanted to say. This was a point I made a couple streams ago that I never flushed out. So I apologize. Sorry, it's a few things. First, it's early, and second, it's early. But there was an idea that I shared. I can't remember exactly what I said, but let me just flesh out the whole idea. When it comes to particular activities that are not necessarily sinful, and I hate to bring this one up, but it's the one that makes the most sense. Let's say like drinking alcohol, drinking beer, drinking wine, not a sin. Getting drunk is the sin. Okay. I think the idea I shared a couple things ago, and this comes to, and the reason why I want to talk about it is because it's the stuff that defiles you, right? The heart. What comes out of the heart is what defiles you. Not what you put in defiles you. It's what comes out of the heart. And so, oftentimes, I will have conversations, and people will say, well, where's the line? Like, is it one drink, you're okay? Is it two drinks, you're feeling it? If you're not a drinker, you don't know what feeling it means. I can't help you. I can have one drink and I'll be feeling it because I used to be I used to be a drunk, and so I can have one drink and be feeling it. Back in the day, I'd have 4 or 5 drinks and not be feeling it. But anyways, if you're looking for the line, what's the line? Here's my own personal belief, suggestion, life advice. If you're constantly worried about where the line is, and that goes with anything, not just drinking. Well, what TV shows can I watch? Can I watch Game of Thrones? Can I watch Breaking Bad? Can I watch this? Can I watch that? If you have to find the line, there's a good chance that you should pray. Ask God, like, am I built more for life than just this show, just this food, just this drink, just this fill in the blank? And so if you don't have the conversation of where's the line, I don't want to offend God, you have freedom. I can't remember what the freedom verse is, but there's a Bible verse that says, hey, you have freedom to do X, but don't cause another person to stumble. So if you don't have that, if you're like, oh yeah, I can have a drink, not a problem, but you have a friend who's also a Christian and they believe that the drinking is a sin, don't drink in front of them. Don't cause them to lose their faith. That's the whole freedom thing. But for you, for the person who's saying, where's the line? If you find yourself saying that, my suggestion is take it to God, go to prayer, and just be like, God, like, I want to glorify you. And if you're saying where's the line, that's a pretty good indication that that's probably a convicting thing. And me personally, I would avoid that. For a time, music. Love music, obviously. Who doesn't love music? It's so basic. But for a time, like, the music that I listened to, it wasn't glorifying God. It wasn't like Hail Satan, but it just wasn't glorifying God. It was like typical pop, hip hop, rap, all those things. This was early 2010s. And I felt a conviction, and I started saying to myself, well, where's the line? What can I listen to? What music can I listen to? And it came to a point where I just said, you know what, God, I'm giving up music. It's not glorifying to you. It affects me. It changes my attitude about you. But going back to this, my attitude wasn't changing because of the music. The music was amplifying what was already inside of me. And so I said, God, take the I'm gonna throw this stuff away. And I took all my CDs. I threw them all away. This would have been 2012, 13, 14, sometime around there. Got rid of all my music. And I told God, and I was like, but I need you, because I love music. I need you to replace it with something that does glorify you. And at that time, that was when a lot of Christian hip hop and rock was getting really, really good. I mean, it was okay back in the early days, but then it started getting really, really good. And it was just like artist after artist after artist, like just kind of replaced current stuff. And so, do I listen now to that same old music? Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. Is it on constant play? No. But every now and then I'll pop it on because Kristen and I are reflecting about the good old days, and then we play the song and joking around. But we don't play that songs much because now we have kids and stuff. But so we want to instill with the kids the good music that will amplify the attitude of our hearts towards God. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. So again, if you're trying to find the line, just be cautious, man. Just be careful. And yeah, we hope that whatever it is you do, that it does glorify God. As it says here, that what comes from inside of you doesn't defile you, but those things that are inside of you, that they're the good stuff, that, you know, take off the evil thoughts, place them with the good thoughts. Take off the sexual immorality, place it with purity. Oh, trigger someone there. Take out the murder and give it to patience and peace and loving of the brother. But I'm Matt with So Cincy. We're glad to have you. Thank you. Subscribe to the channel as we attempt to build up past 81 subscribers and get to the big 100 subscribers. If we get that, I'll be so happy. I'll be so very, very happy. Love you. Have a good Tuesday, and we will see you. Oh, we'll see you tonight, because Kristen said she was going to live stream. So we'll have a special edition. We'll do some questions of what you should of asking a Christian. But she'll be with us tonight, and so we will see you then at, I don't know, probably about 9 o'clock. Probably 9 o'clock we'll do a live stream tonight. So y'all have a good one. Have a good Tuesday. Stay safe out there if it's snowing, and we'll see you.